Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here again, and thank you very much as always for taking the time to tune in to this episode. And today I'm joined by addiction medicine physician, life coach, and entrepreneur Dr. Sarah Nasir, who's here to discuss her work in the addiction recovery space. Dr. Sarah specialises in holistic addiction recovery, mental health resilience, and productivity mastery. Dr. Sarah empowers modern Muslim women to thrive professionally and personally while staying grounded in their values. Dr. Sarah combines medical expertise with compassion, offering actionable strategies for addiction recovery, mental health, and personal development. She inspires women to thrive in their careers, embrace entrepreneurship, and master time management. And that's something I think everyone could do with a little bit of help on. Dr. Sarah is passionate about creating sustainable change in people's lives, particularly in addiction recovery, entrepreneurship, and family balance. Dr. Sarah, thank you very, very much for taking the time to join me today.
Gary, thank you so much for having me on your show. It is an honor to be here. And dear audience, hello, nice to meet you. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion that Gary and I will be having and the value it will bring you.
Me too. Me too. So let's start with your journey thus far. There was a lot of component parts to your bio. You have a lot of skill sets and a lot of value to bring to your clients and such. But specifically, what sparked your passion for addiction recovery?
Gary, great question. I know my bio feels like it's all over the place, but at the end of the day, I think the commonality here is this ability to transcend our limits, to connect with our soul, to harness the power of our purpose, to then live a fulfilling and thrilling life of design. And that's basically the concept of my coaching service, the Transcendent You. Sorry. And, the reason that I'm interested in the addiction recovery aspect, I think it lies very much in that, as well as every of the other dimensions that I like to touch on, the other expertise and arenas. Um, I found in my journey through my medical career, as a medical student, as a resident in training, and then afterwards when I'm an attending and a fully fledged licensed physician in the US. Um, I am so inspired and I love the ability of these individuals who are finding themselves at the lowest of lows, and then they are still climbing to the top, whether they have the chemical support they need or not, whether they have people understanding what they're going through or not, when they are setting their sight on a goal of sobriety and success and regaining control of their life. I find that to be so motivational, and it feels very in aligned with my principles. I fortunately don't have personal addiction stories like a lot of my inspiring patients do. However, I see the parallel in the journey where you set your eyes on a goal that seems impossible to reach or seems so daunting, and you want to give up in so many um, steps along the way, personal journey, etc. But then being able to still persevere, to keep transcending. I think that has been a personal journey of mine, and that's where I resonate with the individuals who are trying to recover from addiction. Because at the end of it, under all of this disease and its impact, you have a soul, you have a person, you have somebody with dreams, aspirations, likes, dislikes, with gifts that is the world is waiting for from them, right?
Yeah.
And so I find it very gratifying to be able to be somebody who can stand with them, give them the advice, break down all these complicated and scary sounding concepts to a way that makes them feel like they got it, you know?
Yeah.
That is my approach when I sit down and I talk with my patients, that it's not just the big pharma trying to throw more at you. It's not just, you know, trying to get your money out of you because that's what your dealers are for. That's what I tell my patients. Here I am. My greatest success story is what your success story. So let's do this together. And that's what I love about being able to strike that chord with certain individuals and just being able to save those lives. It translates into not just change in that one person's life, it becomes, it's like a ripple effect. Just like when something bad is happening, everybody around them are being impacted, including like to the scale of society. Vice versa, when something good is happening and this person is empowered to go out and accept the mission of their purpose and live it, then the ripple effect of goodness follows as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
So
I think
so
that's what
powerful.
sparks my passion.
Yeah, and I can really tell that you're passionate about it. In terms of the types and styles of patients that you get, is there a particular genre, a particular type of addiction that you specialize in, or you just seem to gravitate more towards?
So I'm the most experienced in the opioid addiction
Okay,
because it's just so prevalent. But I'm also capable of dealing with other substance use disorders rather than the behavioral disorders,
okay,
like gambling, porn, or sex addiction. That is not one that I'm as well versed in. But if you
mhm,
have a substance addiction that somebody's dealing with, that would be more of my genre. So, in addition to opioid addiction, this includes like alcohol addiction, benzodiazepine addictions, um, methamphetamine, and cocaine addictions as well.
fascinating. I'm just grabbing some notes here. I,
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about the two major tracks of substance versus behavioural before, and it makes absolute sense now that you explain it in that way. And in terms of, if I could say, the journey, and forgive me if that's not the right nomenclature to use, is there a specific time when you specialize, saying, when you, for example, when you've admitted that you have an addiction, that's when I will come in, because the work to get to that point of admittance is yours to do, or it's someone else that would be a better support for you, and I take it from this part onwards, or is it a full life cycle? I'm not sure how that works.
Fascinating question. I do want to ask you to clarify it a little bit more. I don't think I understood the question. Do you mind asking it again?
Definitely, yeah. So is there, I just wonder, in terms of when would be the most appropriate time for Dr. Sarah to be the best help that she can be for a patient? Is it when someone is kind of thinking, I may or may not have an addiction here, I'm going to go speak to someone and figure out what that looks like? Or is it full blown addiction? They have tried some treatments before, it hasn't worked, and then Dr. Sarah can be the best benefit at that particular time? Is there a sweet spot for when you can add the most value?
Very good question. I think it's a very nuanced answer because I'm trying to position myself as somebody who can be able to intervene along the whole spectrum of the journey. And I think
Right.
journey is a great way to describe it. If we're able to connect sooner, somebody who is starting to wonder if they have an issue with or they're struggling with addiction, or if they have an addiction, that is definitely a place to connect with me as doc for my medical expertise and stop it before it becomes a wasted life, lost in struggling and the pain-filled life.
Yeah.
At this stage, it might be helpful to, it might need less medicine, but more of the coaching as well as connecting with different resources and support system to develop coping mechanisms early. So you develop this resilience going down life.
Mhm.
Most often at this time, it tends to be like traumatic history or stressors in life that with poor coping mechanisms where you're starting to slip. So if we can intervene and prevent you from slipping, then I have helped you get like save time, talking about time management, right?
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, the most valuable resource we have as human beings is time.
yeah.
That's the one thing that does not, you can't go and you can't make up for it. Money comes and goes, health comes and goes, love comes and goes, relationships, right? The only thing that is just a one-way street is time.
Mhm.
So the more I can save time, the more we have the ability to create an impact for which we're here on earth. Now, if you're somebody who is finding yourself in the midst of it, in the midst of the deep depth of the ocean, that's where it's more intense, and I alone will not be sufficient. You
Yeah.
definitely need the medical intervention to stabilize the biochemistry. Because, as my sixth grade science teacher used to say, the human body is a bag of chemicals. So, everything that we're doing, breathing, watching, listening, eating, drinking, these are all chemical reactions that are taking place. Okay.
Yeah.
And so our body generates its own chemicals like hormones and the heroin, the fentanyl, the alcohol, those are also chemicals.
Yeah.
And now the medicines we're giving are also chemicals. That's where the medical expertise comes in trying to understand how to balance this chemical deficit so your body is back in balance, in homeostasis, so it can do its job. Our body is so intelligent. It knows exactly how to take care of itself, but it needs the resources and it needs that lack of distraction, that
Mhm.
focus, to focus on what it is that you want it to do. So we have a lot of power and influence in how our body grows. And so in conjunction with an expert like myself, with the chemical aspect, because we've had to spend years in learning how medicine works and
Yeah.
how the human body works, right? And then we have to figure out how to put the two together to find that balance.
Yeah.
So I like to tell my patients that you're the expert in your body in
Yeah.
regards to how it feels to live in your body. And I'm the expert in the science of these chemicals and the physiology or the laws and nature of how the body works. Together, we're going to figure out how to resolve this and get that success story.
Yeah.
So, as I'm working as a doctor, as an advisor, also as a life coach when this is happening, to grab all that together. So, although these titles are like different, but it all comes together to create that transcendent outcome. And then also, if you're somebody who's at the end of it, you don't have need for Dr. Sarah, that's a great place for me to come and support you as Coach Sarah,
Yeah.
because now that you have finished that journey and you're ready to take um, all these experiences you had, they can be converted into something powerful and transformed into a product that can help you and maybe others and help you create your legacy. And so if you're at that stage, you want to convert those stories into something that creates an impact and helps others, that's where I come in with the entrepreneurial hat, helping you understand what your passion is, how to channel it, because I have been learning so much. I feel like I'm just a bag of experience and I'm ready to use those myself to help others go on to the next stages of their lives. So,
Yeah.
long answer to a short question.
No, I love it, and it's that ability to really accentuate the journey and say you're never quite finished. You're just working through the various stages of the journey or of the transcendence, if that would make the most sense to the people. One thing I wanted to go back to in terms of, I guess it would probably depend on where the person is at in terms of their healing, if I could use that term. And you mentioned earlier the ability to kind of break things down. And the language I would use in my former career as a project manager would be decomposing the overall project into manageable chunks that will give you the opportunity to start to figure out what the actual scope of this project is. Very similar that in theme anyway to what you're saying. How do you go about that breaking down literally the person's life, the person's experiences, the person's real world today. How does that start, and to giving you that opportunity to move forward with progress?
Yeah. I love that analogy. It just made me think like, you're going back to your experience as a project manager and I'm thinking like fascinating. That exactly what we are? We are a project, right?
Yeah,
The accumulation of our life story is a big, big project. So I love this question. Um, you know, what I find is that exactly as you said, like it needs to be broken down into chunks, and especially the section of life where we are meeting in, me and my patient or my client. We're in that box right now, in that project right now. So
yeah,
that's where we start. We start at where we are, analyze what is happening, because sometimes people don't know what is the next phase for them. So
yeah,
maybe that is the next goal, to figure out what it is that you want to do. Because I know when I started my transformation and growth journey, heck, I didn't know what I wanted. I started with, just doing that visual board, that just brainstorming in a class where we were just sitting down and thinking about what is like all the things we want to do, the books we want to write, companies we want to establish, what do we want to be known for, how much do we want to weigh, etc. Right?
yeah,
Um, so that full life vision is what I started with, and that's something I like to start when it is somebody I know it's going to be a consistently showing up, and I have that one-on-one or that long-term relationship coming. So that's something that I like to bring in, and I like to do it every few often.
yeah.
Other parts I like to do is, or the main foundation of it is that I like to see where the people are standing in the six dimensions of a transcendent, is what I like to call it. Because, even though we look like one person, we're different dimensions. We're a multi-dimensional being, right? So there's other elements, and that's where my osteopathic training comes in. Like it was rooted in me that the body is a unit of mind, body, and spirit. That's the tenets of osteopathic principles founded by the founder, Dr. Andrew Taylor Steele. And what I've found in my journey is that I need to add three more dimensions to that to make it feel more complete. So the transcendent dimensions are mind, body, spirit, social, financial, and aspirational. So I find that not having homeostasis, balance in these six dimensions also leads to a feeling of incompleteness, um, and lacking, which is what people try to fill,
Mhm.
the gap with. And what people sometimes end up filling those gaps with, because they're too scared to go out and do something about their soul's calling, telling them to address these needs, is they will try to numb out those feelings, that, the negative feelings like anxiety and depression that arise with not being aligned with your authentic self. Um, they will go and try to like numb out those feelings with drugs or other activities, drugs, alcohol, and other activities. So I believe that we're not meant to be just empty. We're meant to fill our vessel, our life with stories and experiences that makes us feel. I think that's the
Yeah,
human experience, right? That's what makes us human. And so when we're busy doing those things, w- I mean, the positive energy and emotion starts um, to soar, and the more you do it, the more you build up your stamina of maintaining that state. And the more you stay in that state, the more you become acclimated to it. And it's called the steady state, the peak performance state, right? And that's where I try to take folks naturally to, because personally speaking, that's where I have found to be a state that doesn't crash. When you're using drugs and alcohol, there's a high and then there's a crash.
mhm,
And that happens because our body is not good with keeping up with rapid changes, but our bodies are masters of acclimating. And that's
Right.
why disease takes place. And so, if you train your body, if you train your mind to be in that elevated state of existence constantly, that becomes your baseline. Just like if you're depressing your health constantly, the withdrawal symptoms and cravings become your baseline, right? So,
Yeah.
what I like to do with my patients, going back to that project, the word you used was decomposing, right?
Yeah.
Uh, is to decompose down to these 6 dimensions of a person, of a transcendent. And then what I like to do with my, patients and clients who are year-long clients, because it takes time. You have to give yourself time for all these transformations to take place. So much easier to break things than it is to fix things.
Yeah.
Much, much shorter time to just drop a cup and shatter it into 1,000 pieces. It will take hours to weeks to months to put everything back together.
Yeah.
And so, what we do is we set quarterly goals, 90-day goals on the 6 dimension aspects. And in the process, we hold those accountability sessions of like, how much of this have you done? Because as you start to do little bit at a time, that actually does build up. When you actually go to the end of those 3 months, and I'm like, you completed 80%, 100%, 120% of your goals, it feels so good.
Yes.
You know, we have the reward mechanism pathway in our brain for a reason. It's meant to support us in becoming the transcendent, the grander version of ourselves, the delayed gratification. The addiction hijacks that system, right? And so it's retraining the mind, retraining the body to go into that other element. And this is not applicable just to addiction. This is why, in my introduction, you saw that I'm interested in self improvement.
Yeah.
I'm using what I've learned in treating my patients with addiction and transcending addiction to help, um, you know, apply those same principles. Because the sweetest thing you can experience is the reward pathway in your brain just constantly being on and not off. And so that is what I'm applying in the other fields as well, on how to overcome your fear. Because patients with addiction, they're afraid of withdrawal symptoms. They're afraid if they're going to catch a bad disease like HIV or Hep C. They're afraid if they're going to overdose. Versus when on the other side, or like, at least as a Muslim woman, what I had to wonder is, what is going to happen if I put myself out there? What if people don't like what I have to say? What if people, you know, troll me or attack me in a way for what they don't agree with, So I had to overcome those. Will I lose support of people I think I like? You know? So I had to overcome those and transcend those limiting thoughts myself. And what I've found is that as you go out there, yes, there will be people who will disagree with you. Yes, there will be people who will give you the eyebrow raise and be like, what are you really doing it for? What's in it for you?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, is what I've realized is that what people think of me is not my business. Beyond the
Yes.
fact, beyond the fact that I just want to make sure that I'm not doing them wrong. And after that, you know, it's none of my business what goes on in their head. There's a reason why I'm not privy to their thoughts, right? So
Yeah.
I just need to keep control of myself. I need to be the first one who believes in my ideas. I need to show up. If I don't show up for myself, who will? For
Yeah.
the inspirations that I have. Just like the patients with addiction. If they don't show up for their body, for their lives, for their loved ones, who will?
Yeah.
Right? So that I find it's a very parallel path rising to the top, despite how much inside your doubts and self-protective mechanisms want to like dampen you. We're just so much more amazing than that. And it's just fascinating journey. I appreciate you giving me a chance to dive deep into that.
It's incredible. I mean, so many of the points that you had raised there are key points that I use in my general daily conversation with almost everyone I interact with. And in terms of the thing I loved that you said was other people's opinions of you are none of your business. And that's a phrase that I've used. I can't even remember where I got it from, but it's so true. One of those sayings that you kind of go, yeah, that's actually true. Why am I even worried or concerned about that? And it's freeing. It creates a healthy distance between what may happen, the reaction to what it is you're putting out there or who it is you're trying to become, and what the actual intention, the energy you're willing to expend on that to get your lesson out there. And when I have, or when I work with anyone that's doing something similar to you, that is saying, I want to create meaningful change for other people, it's not just all about me. And if it's all about you, that's okay as well. But as you said earlier, there is a positive ripple effect that will come from an individual thinking that it's all about them, but there will be periphery benefits to other people of saying, I don't need to worry about him anymore. She is trustworthy now, like, whatever the benefits would look like. And it's one of those things where it's you need, if you don't do this, especially if you've already accepted the gift that you've been given, that your voice, in whatever way, shape, or form you decide to use it, is going to be magnified to other people. If you don't do that, then you're doing a disservice to other people that need your words, that need your voice, that need your support, that needs your energy, and such. So we're absolutely on the same page there. And just an extension of what we were just chatting about there, Dr. Sarah, one of the things that I wrote down when you were chatting earlier there was defining success. And you touched upon it a little bit there in terms of your 6 stages of transcendence, and then the literal measurement of success. And I loved what you said, the reward pathway always being open. I've said for many, many years that people are buoyed by progress. People, they just are. If you don't make progress, or you're actually regressing in some way, that's demoralizing, and it will come with a whole bunch of potential negative connotations to that. On the converse, when people are making progress, even if it's not as much as they would like, or as quickly as they would like, or maybe even taking the path that they initially hoped for, progress is energizing. So the reward pathway is certainly something I'm going to use in the future to make myself sound a wee bit smarter than I actually am. But in terms of the definitions of success, is there a logical part in the journey that you deal with when you're dealing with an addictive personality, where you start to introduce those measures? Is there, I'll use the term again, a sweet spot where too early and it might be overwhelming or misunderstood, too late, you've wasted some time in there, but there's that logical period of time within their journey where you say, I think it's time we started to put some quantifiable measures on this, because you're making more progress than you think you are, or I want you to see in a meaningful way to you there's demonstrable progress being made. Is there a logical time within your practice?
Very deep question again. I love the questions you're asking. So I think I'm gonna steal from your experience as a project manager in the
Yeah.
past, and I'm gonna take your decomposition down again. And I think whenever you had a project, I'm sure I have no experience in proper training and project management, so feel free to, educate me when it looks like there's a good educational experience opportunity there.
Sure.
So from the big projects that I've had to do in my life, like exams, graduation, finishing a rotation, closing my notes before a certain time is done, birthdays of kids, etc.
Yeah.
Um, each one of these things are projects in our lives, right? Our lives are
Exactly.
made up of individual activities that we have to do. And every activity, when we set an intention to complete them, it becomes a goal as soon as you set, like, this marks the success. Like if we do this, then that means we have accomplished that task. That is the difference between a task and a thought, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, is that thought you're like, yeah, I should get the laundry done. Yeah, I should fold the clothes. Like literally, I have like a big crate full of clothes just sitting there for me. Uh, None of them for me have become a project yet,
Yeah.
right? But I know that it's a really sad project because it's like once you finish putting everything away, you turn out and then there's just more. And that
Yeah.
is just so, for me, is just depressing. Laundry is depressing. I don't know why we don't have a solution for that yet at a time when people are going into space and we have computers in our hands. Anyways, personal venting done. Um, so, coming back to the question, I find that you can set success markers at every stage of the journey. If you're somebody who's acutely just coming and you're just fresh, like you just used this morning and you still have needle marks on your arm,
Yeah.
the goal for that person at that moment will be a little different from the person who have been, for their last use was like 3 months ago or a year ago. So that success marker is changed, on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be something where it's just one and done. I mean, and you can have more than one goal and metric for success, but it is definitely helpful to have something to monitor. For example, somebody who's trying to lose weight, it's one of the way they know they're losing weight is every time they stand on the weight machine and they see how much they weigh, helps them compare and see if they have been successful towards it or not. So it's the individual that defines what the success marker for that activity is going to be.
Yeah.
And, overall, I think everybody needs to have a sun in their horizon type of goal where, the sun, there's just nothing else in our sky like it. There's no confusing that this is the sun and this is not the sun. We don't have two suns in our planet for our planet, right? And then it's not like the moon where it waxes and wanes. You know exactly what its path is going to be, whether it's a cloudy day or not, right?
Yeah.
You know when it's daytime if you're outside. With the moon, it comes and goes. And then you don't, I don't even compare to like you need to have stars in your horizon because they're there one part of the day and they're not. And you don't know which one is what if you're not an astronomer, right? You have to be a student or an expert in the astronomy to keep your track versus a sun is so blatantly obvious. It's so large. You
Yeah.
can't hide it. You know it's going to come up eventually. I think it's very important to have a major goal like that in life. And that's what I tell my patients, like, keep thinking about what is the sun in your horizon. I want
Yeah.
to know because this is what's going to carry you through the dark nights and the stormy days because you know what it is. And
Yeah.
so that's the ultimate success. And once again, it is defined by the person themselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes time to recognize that. But in between, you can have the stars and the moons and the little journeys along the way. And that's what I like to do with my clients and patients is where they're at, set those measurable, doable goals
Yeah.
and then accomplish them because once you accomplish one, it starts to build confidence as well,
Yeah.
right? Because if all you've been told or you're finding yourself is that you can't quit, you can't do what you're trying to achieve, eventually all that negativity wears on you and
Yeah.
you lose that. In medical words, I think your confidence muscle gets atrophied versus when you go and you continue to like push yourself, the confidence muscle gets hypertrophied, which is what happens in bodybuilders. That's
Right.
how they become muscular. They go and they keep pushing past the resistance,
Yeah.
but they don't start with bench pressing 500 pounds. They might start with bench pressing maybe just 10 pounds,
Yeah.
right? So so to answer your question, it varies day to day per
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. And I love the opportunity for them to select it themselves. And one key thing, probably to complement what you said there, that if they go through and they're achieving micro successes along the way, and then for some reason there's a hard stop, you have information now because you have been measuring that you didn't have before. So then you can say, well, we do have a path of success, and then there was an event, there was something that happened that paused, that regressed, that made you start using again, or whatever that compounded to become in terms of behaviors. Let's explore that. And so you're not exploring it from day zero again, you're exploring it from some point in the future where there is a positive, reference point or reference points that they've already achieved in their past as well. So I do love that. You asked me for some educational moments in terms of project management. I'm going to help you here, I hope, with your laundry frustrations. We have projects and we have operations. Projects are finite things that happen that have a distinct beginning, middle, and end, and they guarantee they will end at some point, and you will move on with whatever the end product, service, or result or output of the project was. Operations are more constant things that have to get done. Now, there can be a kind of project type component to them in terms of a beginning, middle, and an end. I'm going to put it in the machine, I'm going to put the detergent in, I'm going to bring it out, I'm going to hang it up and things, but they're more constant things. So there are different types and styles of mindset and skill set that go with being a project professional or a project person and an operations person or a professional. And it could just be you're a project person, you're not an operations person, and you need to recruit someone in your circle to be your operations person that says, I don't want to see this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to put my worn clothes there, and I want them to be back available to be on my person within 24 hours at any particular point. Operations person, help me out, do that.
I do believe in the power of delegation. And we've been talking about maybe asking somebody to, I mean, I have somebody who now takes off the task of cleaning the house off
Yeah,
my hand. I have somebody come once a week and do it. But I feel like I need somebody just devoted to the laundry. And
yeah,
now I'm thinking maybe I should just open up a business for it, like recruit some folks in my community who would love that extra, fund, and
yeah,
it can solve so many people's problem where we just go and not we, I'm not doing it. But enabling others to just go and just fold laundry and
yeah.
put it away and become like the laundry experts or something. Um Anyways, I appreciate that education, but yes, I'm not a laundry operations person.
Yeah. Well, do you know the key thing? Look at us brainstorming and entrepreneurial ideas, and
Yeah.
it's a great segue because I do want to talk about time management in a second here. But ultimately, the thing I quite like laundry because I see there's demonstrable progress through every single step. It's not like I'm doing the same thing and it just looks or feels the same. It went from a crumpled ball in the bottom of a basket to being somewhere. There's just that element of progress. Back to talking about measuring progress, that I do quite enjoy. But what you said there actually, piqued a notion for me. Is that where Dr. Sarah's real true value comes from? If someone says she never helped me with any addiction, she never showed up when I really needed her, I never really felt like there was any benefit of working with her, and someone says, wait a second, Doctor, you should see how she does her laundry, the way that she folds the t-shirts and the sheets and stuff like that. No, so what you're then doing is essentially considering buying back your time from tasks that are not serving your overall purpose and goals to give you the opportunity to concentrate on what does serve your purpose and goals and make or help you add the most value to people. So it's a fabulous segue and such a fluke into time management. And I'm interested that it was something I mentioned in the bio that everyone needs a refresher or a course or some support in terms of their own ability to manage their time. What have you found that's been most effective for your patients or clients in helping people manage their time and maintain harmony between everything that they have to do in a given day?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect the laundry to be such a great segue, but I am glad that we're talking about it because I think it is a fun topic to talk about. Um, this is not something I touch particularly with the patients because
Okay.
I think patients with addiction problem, their sense of time is just totally not there. I
Yeah,
think the
makes sense.
priority is a little different.
Mm.
So until they're ready to be in that stage where they're now in control of their time and they are ready to drive it, because I feel like time is like a vehicle in many ways as well. Like you need to learn how to operate it. Um, this is more for folks who are, you know, don't find enough time in their day to get things done, but they have a lot of passion. They want to do things.
Yeah.
And this I found also my medical life definitely impacted and shaped this significantly. And so what I found was that one night and this was during residency, during night duty. I was managing a code. Code in medical lingo is, somebody is having a heart attack, they're basically dying. Code blue is called. It's all CPR, hands on deck, epinephrine being injected, intubation happening. The whole
Yeah.
hospital, like, the emergency team is there trying to resuscitate. That is what's a code. And I was running a code on this lady once, and then at the same time, I was like kind of like the middle resident. So we have like the senior resident, the middle resident, and then like the mid-year, I guess, and then there's the intern.
Mm.
And so I'm in the middle, so I have some experience. I've, done the grunt work already, so I can manage it a little bit more. So running a code, and then from the floor, this is where stable patients are. They're just staying overnight to get a few things done. And
Yeah.
oftentimes at night, the elderly patients, many of them have what's called sundowning, where as the sun goes down, they become disoriented, especially because they're in a foreign environment at night. So they start to hallucinate, become agitated,
Right.
and become harder to manage. And so
Yeah.
the nurse would often call and be like, "Can we give them something to sleep, etc." So nothing as scary as a code happening,
Yeah.
but you don't want to upset the nurses. Your nurses are very, very powerful and very valuable allies in the
Yeah.
hospital and everywhere. They're your eyes and ears. So you want to keep them happy, make sure that they're taking care of everybody. So when they say it's urgent, they mean it's urgent, even
Yeah.
though you have a code happening. What's in front of you is a little different. And then at the same time, from the ER, we're getting a page that there's now an admission ready. Quickly move them off the ER because there's more patients waiting.
Yeah.
So, how can you be in three places at the same time? So all of these are urgent, all of these are important. Everyone's like, the clock is ticking. I need this to happen yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And so I did that. I was in three places at once, you know, and that night is my defining moment that if I can do that, I can basically do anything that I set my mind to going forward.
Yes.
And that was time management, that was energy management, that was intellect management, that was everything you are management, like your whole being management. And so I have some like some, what's the word I'm looking for, outline for the things that helps me manage time.
Yeah.
Number one is triage. Triage is a medical word. It's basically saying prioritizing. So
Yeah.
if you have a bunch of tasks in your hand, you are prioritizing that this is a code blue, this is a sundowning, and this is an admission. So you figure out how to do. Second thing you do is you delegate. When I was managing all those, I was not the one who was doing the chest compression, that's for
Yeah.
sure, right? When I'm ordering the medicine for the patient who's sundowning on the floor for the nurse, I'm not the one who's going and giving it to the patient. I'm
Yeah.
not the one who's checking the pill out and otherwise. When there is that admission stuff coming on, like there are things that can be done remotely to prepare for it. So when I'm actually getting ready to physically go there, I have some homework done and ready already. And it makes them feel like I'm also um, interacting with them, because then I'll send task back to them, ask them question, go find me this information,
Yeah.
collect this information for me. So that's the first one is prioritizing. Second one is, as you said, delegating. So you don't do it alone. You have to go and you know uh, assign tasks to other people,
Yeah.
and then when they come, you make that decision. Third thing was, my goodness, if I knew this question was coming, I would have thought things like try to refresh my memory. Um, what is it? Um, I'm forgetting. There's like four of them. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the other two right
No,
now,
that's
but
okay.
those are like the first two. And then on the next thing that I mentioned after I remember the last two is you need to also realize that your time is not just 24 hours. Some things now, when you're coming back into life and you're looking at what is all the things on your plate, I like to look at my time in different viewpoints, like compressed and extended. So there's my 24 hours. How am I going to use them? Then if I have lots of projects, I look at the scope of a week or a month, because then you can, you know, kind of spread them around to
Yeah.
be something where I'm gonna allocate this day for this podcast. I'm gonna allocate this day for just work, this day for laundry, etc.
Yeah.
And then um, also make sure that you give yourself time for rest and just vegetation.
Yeah.
Like that allows me, like being able to do it this way, where I have the prioritized and then allocated for the different structures in my week, in my day. And I have folks to help me, like for us, my virtual assistant helped us connect. So
Yeah.
otherwise I wouldn't have been able to, I think it would have taken me months or years to actually be on your show otherwise.
Yeah.
So, I knew my help. So it's a teamwork. And then I have another concept called spinning plates that allows me to do multiple things in parallel. And I
Yes.
think it comes with this time management skills, where if you have seen, the master jugglers, they go and they spin the plate on different sticks.
Yeah.
They're not just standing there and spinning one plate all the time.
Yeah.
They're injecting their energy into one plate, puts it on spinning, and then that plate has its own center of gravity and has its own momentum, and it's doing its own thing. And they keep doing that, and then they keep coming back and reinfusing the energy on different plates. So, batching, that's one of my third things.
There we
Batching.
go.
Yes, there we go. I guess this is the part of the batching process, my four
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah.
Um, what I like to do is I like to combine activities together
Yeah.
where I can accomplish the spinning plate philosophy.
Yeah.
For example, when I'm doing my cooking, I don't cook every day. I
Yeah.
cook like once or twice a month. And then anybody else who doesn't like eating like, prepped food and then just heated up food for a long time, they can cook themselves. So
Yeah.
also knowing like how much you're going to be hands off and let other people learn to fend for themselves.
Yeah.
That's the thing that needs to be taught, like the husband, the kids, etc. Like you got to
Yeah.
let them figure out life on their own. Um, So when I'm cooking in batches, I'm doing that, and that's also my time to catch up with family. Like I turn on the phone and then I'll talk with my mom, my grandma while I'm chopping something.
Yeah.
So that's one way of combining things and getting things done. Except for laundry. I haven't found a way
Of
to do
course.
that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I think that's a long story. Like I really went really deep into it.
Yeah.
I would have done a better preparation if I knew this
No, it's
question.
great.
It was great. It was great.
It's a great analogy because not analogy. It's a great explanation because everyone has a different relationship with time, and you can even have multiple relationships with time depending on where you're at in a given point of the day, of the week, of the month, of the year, and it's just good to get a little bit of insight into how you can keep the plate spinning. I was smiling when you were saying plate spinning because I've used that analogy for years and years and years and years in my project land, where our job is to keep the plate spinning, and you see the one wobbling at the side and you just go over and give it a little bit of manipulation and it gets back to spinning again, and then you can go give other things attention. So I do truly, truly love that. This has been a great conversation. As you know, it's called The Best You podcast, and as such I get an opportunity to ask each guest what regular practice they employ to give themselves the opportunity to be the best version of themselves. So what does that mean for Dr. Sarah?
I think that's a great question. And I'm appreciating how resonant our approach to life and descriptions are, because your show's name is The Best You. My coaching company's name is Transcendent You, because it is at the end of the day all about you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You are the star of the show of your life. You're
yeah,
the center of your universe. And nobody else is going to, outshine you. Nobody else is going to be the hero in your story,
yeah,
because it's all about you. And so the question that you asked about what does it mean to be the best version of me is to embrace that narrative that I am the star of my show. I am the director, the producer, the actor, the writer of the plot and the story. And so for me, it comes back to living the philosophy that I have created for the transcendent aspect, where I look at the life as a fulfilling and thrilling adventure at this point,
yeah,
because I think our lived experience is all about these treasure. Like, I feel like life is a treasure hunt now, and these moments where we overcome something that we were struggling with, or we encounter a new experience that just gives us that burst of like euphoria.
yeah,
Um, that's what I'm chasing now. And I think that is what allows me to become better and better. That um, when I'm facing an obstacle now, it's more about what is the gift this has for me? What is the experience that I'm going to have at the end of it? That is my treasure, and I want to open it, and I want to harness it. I want to experience it, and I want to live it. So it allows me to continue to transcend my limits. And in the process of it, I'm finding that I'm becoming closer to myself as
yeah,
well as my creator, because I believe that, our souls are in, our what I believe in God. So he says that he breathed life into us. So I feel like our souls are an extension of his breath. It's that pure super nuclear energy that gets translated through our actions to, build build cities, monuments, empires,
yeah,
transcend time, right? So that is the power of the soul. I don't think we appreciate it enough. And so being able to discover what I'm capable of, what I'm here for, that is an adventure. And that allows me to continue to pursue my purpose, that I'm here to do something good. I believe we're all created for a good purpose. We all have our noble purpose. It's when we run away from our purpose. It's when we stop listening to that voice inside of us, because our conditioning over life drowns it. So much noise everywhere, outside, inside.
yeah,
We stop listening to that pureness inside of ourselves. And when we run away from our purpose, then we start to feel down, depressed, anxious. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Dis-ease,
mm,
unease inside of us,
yeah,
right? And so that's what happens, I've found, because I've been there, right? Where I've tried to
yeah,
run away from who I think I'm supposed to be, versus when I'm leaning into what I'm finding, like, is the right path. It just keeps opening up, as you go
yeah,
forward. When you're walking into purpose, like, the path starts to open up, versus when
yeah,
you're walking away from it, it feels like sinking into darkness
yeah,
versus walking into light. That's what it feels like to me. And so these brings me back to that last part of living an adventure.
Yeah.
So that's what helps me be the best me, by leaning into the
Fabulous.
transcendent philosophy, optimizing the 6 dimensions of myself, making sure that I'm well balanced, well fed, being in tune with myself
Yeah.
helps me be in tune with everything else around me.
Incredible.
Mm,
Incredible.
thank
I
you.
love it. This has been a fabulous conversation, Dr. Sarah. Before I let you go, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I have my website, transcendentyou.com, would be a good way to get an idea of who I am, where what I'm doing. I'm also available by email, transcendentyou@gmail.com, and I'm going to spell it because there is an intentional misspelling.
Okay.
Um, it's not, if you type it, your autocorrect will be like, this looks incorrect. Can we fix the spelling? But I'm a lover of linguistics, and so I did this intentionally because my goal is to create a movement where transcendents are walking the earth.
Yeah.
And thus it's spelled
Right.
transcendantYou, either at gmail.com or transcendentyou.com, because, somebody who's just transcendent, but somebody who, like, a doer of transcendence is a
Yeah.
transcendent. So
Yeah.
that's how I went about and did that. And if you're in California, I am opening up a telemedicine private practice. So if you're anywhere in California, and you need a good doctor who will listen to you and help guide you and take the time to explain things to you, if you value that, I'm opening that California-based telemedicine practice so I can connect with you and support you. And that's going to be zenaracare.com. ZENARACARE.com.
Fabulous. Incredible. I'll get all those links put up on the show notes for
Thank
this
you.
particular episode. Dr. Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a real education. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Gary. I really enjoyed the talk as well. Thank you for having me on the show again.
Hello again. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode, and I do hope that you found it valuable and gained some insights. I do have an ask for you. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would absolutely love it if you would connect with me on my socials, and that's at LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search for my name and do whatever it is you need to do there to follow me and stay updated with all the latest content, tips, and discussions. And for any more resources that you're looking for, feel free to visit my website, garygillen.com. And while you're there, you can book a free, no obligation 30-minute coaching call directly with me through the site. Whether you're looking to enhance your performance or tackle a new challenge, I'm absolutely here to help you succeed, and I would absolutely love to hear from you. Thanks very much again, and until next time, keep pushing towards your goals and getting better each and every day, my friend.